I want to talk about looking at ourselves and looking at others through God's eyes. Because if you and I are going to be really blessed, and if we're going to be a blessing to others, we've got to look at people the way God looks at people, and not as the way the world looks at people. You know, I love the BC comic strip. You know, if you're not familiar with that, it's a kind of a caveman comic strip with cavemen, and then they get into funny antics. And I love that. And I can't find this strip now, but it probably is 20, 30 years old. But one of the cavemen is sitting there building something, and it turns out to be a sundial. And another caveman comes over, and he kind of looks at it, and he says, "What are you doing?" And the guy looks up from building his sundial, and he says, "I'm creating a race of neurotics." That's really true, because people are constantly, they're looking at their watch, they're worried about what time it is, what am I going to miss, and we're really uptight about time compared to ancient cultures that didn't have watches readily available. Well, there's something else that's created a race of neurotics, and that is a good mirror. Now, this one's not very good because it's so tiny, but the point is, it's a mirror. And what's happened is we've invented these really crystal clear, beautiful mirrors that give us a great image of ourselves. And guess what? we don't look so good in our bodies. You know, and here's what the world does. The world gets people to focus on the way their body looked. And that's not what God does. God doesn't look at our bodies, or God doesn't look at whether we have a spot, a grease spot, or a piece of dirt or something on our shirt or on what we're wearing. But the world trains people to look at this. You know, I'll tell you, the inspiration for this teaching came a couple of weeks ago as I was reading Genesis. I was just reading in Genesis, and I came to Genesis chapter 2, verse 25. Here it is. Let's read it together. Genesis 2:25, talking about Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And it said, they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. And it, you know, I've always just taken that as, yeah, completely naked, stripped down, and they weren't ashamed, yeah, because they knew each other sexually and they were the only ones there. But that morning when I read that, it hit me differently. That, do you think in their time in the garden, do you think that either one of them ever got a pimple? Do you ever think that digging around in the garden, ever one of them got their face dirty and didn't know it, or something like that? You know, here Adam and Eve, and they're completely naked in the presence of each other with all of the things that the human body does. And they weren't ashamed. And I thought, gosh, how far have we come in our culture? Because now we can be fully clothed in like the world's best suit. But if we have a pimple on our cheek, oh my gosh, we won't go to the party because we're so embarrassed, we're so ashamed. And frankly, and people are cruel. Because people will come up, and especially to women, make some snide remark about how, what, you forgot your cover up or something. You know, the human body isn't perfect. And there are problems. And Adam and Eve saw each other the way God saw them. And they saw their bodies and they weren't ashamed. And what does the Bible say about how God looks? Oh, let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 16, because I'll tell you, God lays it out here beautifully. Chapter 16. What's going on in 1 Samuel chapter 16? Israel's looking for a king. Their king is Saul. Saul has turned out by this time in 1 Samuel 16 to be a terrible king. And so God's going to replace him. We all know that God replaced Saul with David. But they had to find the guy, David, first. God had to point him out. So 1 Samuel 16, verse 6, and it came to pass when they had arrived, that's Jesse and his sons, that he, Samuel, he's the judge, looked at Eliab. Now that's Jesse's oldest son. He looked at Eliab and he said, wow, surely Yahweh's anointed is here before him. Wow, look at how stately this guy is. Look at how handsome this guy is. This guy is great. What a great king he would make. And he looked at Eliab and he's just like, man, this is going to be a great king. And here's what God says, verse 7. But Yahweh said to Samuel, do not look at his appearance. You want to know how godly somebody is? You want to know how qualified they are to bless me, to bless you? Don't look at their appearance or on the height of his stature, because I've rejected him. God says, Samuel, don't get all excited. I've rejected him. Why? For God does not see as a man sees. For man looks on the outward appearance, but Yahweh looks on the heart. Now, it's easier for Yahweh to look on the heart than it is for us, because when we look at a person, we see their outward appearance. When God looks at a person, he can see right into the heart. And we can't always do that. But you know what? We can train ourselves to not pay so much attention to the outward appearance and to pay more attention to the heart. You know, the world devalues people. It really does. The world devalues people. That should not surprise us. Who's the god of the world? The devil? Absolutely. How valuable are people to the devil? They're not. He wants us all completely miserable. He wants us dead. The devil does not even come unless he's going to steal, kill, and destroy. John 10:10. You know, so the world devalues people. You and I need to be the stopgap. You and I need to be the representatives of God who see people the way God sees people. Let's go to Romans chapter 12. We'll start in verse 1, right in Romans chapter 12, verse 1, and see what God says. He says, I urge you, therefore, brothers and sisters, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as perfect models. Perfect in every way, flawless skin, beautiful shining hair, holy and please. Oh, whoops, that's not what it says. But when we read what it says, it has nothing to do with the way we look. It says, I urge you, brothers and sisters, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice. That's how we're supposed to be. You know how we can be valuable to God? By presenting our bodies as a sacrifice to Him, by obeying Him, by doing what He says, by seeing ourselves the way He sees us, by seeing others the way He sees them. Absolutely. We're supposed to be holy and pleasing to God. He doesn't say present your body as a perfect model, but, that's the way the world would have that verse read. That the girls have to look like models, the guys have to have six packs and have, huge guns, and that kind of stuff, and be chiseled, and that's not the way God sees people. And look at the difference between Samuel and God. Samuel looks at Eliab, and he must have been one heck of a guy, because when Samuel saw Eliab, he's like, wow, that guy needs to be king. So he was a real looker. And yet, Here's God. Samuel, knock it off. I don't look that way. I look at the heart. And that's exactly, if you and I are going to be like God, then we've got to learn to do that. Absolutely. And then verse 2 of Romans 12 says, don't be conformed to the pattern of this age. Who sets up the pattern of the age? The devil does. How do you get conformed to the pattern of the age? You talk to your friend and you say, you see that person over there? See a spot on their shirt? Or, whoa, you see that person over there? Did they have dandruff? I think they have dandruff. Did they know about shampoo? I think, conforming to the pattern of the age is easy. Just go around criticizing other people. You're in. Done. Looking at the heart is difficult because you've got to consider what is the value that person is bringing to the table for God. Absolutely. We've got to train ourselves to look at ourselves from God's perspective, because it isn't necessarily easy. Why isn't it easy? Well, turn on the TV. I was watching a football game on TV last night, and they had a bunch of ads, of course, there's first downs and stuff like that, and they have ads. Oh my gosh. So much stuff about makeup and how to make your skin beautiful and how to make your hair beautiful, over and over and over and over again. And you can't even go out into the culture without seeing it. Why? And what is there, by the way, that's saying, hey, Jesus Christ died for you. You want to know how valuable you are? Jesus Christ paid for you with His life. That's how valuable you are. You want to know how valuable somebody else is? Christ died for that person too. That's how valuable they are. And then beyond that, and this is what you have to bring to the table. And this is what you can do for the Lord. Pimple or no pimple, spot or no spot. Wearing the wrong dress or the wrong shirt at the wrong time or not. You've got a ministry. And you're worth more than something. You're worth an infinite amount, absolutely. And advertising companies, remember, advertising companies aren't around to make you feel good. Advertising companies are around to make money for somebody else. And the way they're going to do that is by making you feel terrible about yourself. And then you're going to go out and buy their product so you can put it on so you can feel a little better about yourself. And it's all doing exactly what Romans 12:2 said not to do, which is don't be conformed to the pattern of this age. Absolutely. While we're training ourselves to think like God, we do have to be aware that appearance is what we see. And so there's a bit of a training here. Remember the old don't think about an elephant exercise? When we're talking about how the mind can't hold multiple images, it thinks about one thing. And if I say, okay, let's not think about an elephant. Don't think about an elephant. Don't be thinking about an elephant. Of course, people think about an elephant because that's what's in their mind. Well, it's the same thing when it comes to seeing people from God's perspective. What do we see with our eyes? We're human beings. What do we see with our eyes? We see the outward appearance. And so what do we need to train ourselves to do? We need to train ourselves. And this starts with me. And in your life, it starts with you. Because we need to train ourselves to say, okay, I see those flaws. Yep. I see those flaws. I see a spot on a shirt. I see dandruff. I see somebody's hair that looks a little matted or whatever it is. Yeah, and we talk about nobody's perfect. Let's shift that just a little bit. No body is perfect. My body isn't perfect. Your body isn't perfect. And if we can understand that and look at the heart, then we can begin to shift. And we can start to look at value. And again, value has two sides to it. Number one, what's your value? What did God pay for you? He paid for you with the life of Christ. That's how valuable you are to Him. The second thing is, what's your value? What are you bringing to the table? How can I see that? And how can I help you bring that out? How can you see that in me? And how can you help me bring that out? Here's Ephesians chapter 4, verse 7. Now grace was given to each one of us according to the measured portion of Christ's gift. That's why it says when He ascended on high, He took captivity captive and gave gifts to people. When Christ ascended, He sent down Holy Spirit. He gave gifts to people, and that gift is a ministry. And every single Christian has a ministry that they can use to bless God. The word ministry is just simply the word service. If somebody's sitting there going, well, I'm not sure I have a ministry. Wait! Ministry is service. That's like saying, I don't think that God really empowered me to serve Him. Of course He did. God gave every Christian a ministry. God gave every Christian a way of serving. God thinks you're so valuable. He paid for you with Christ's life. And now it's a matter of saying, wow, I'm a valuable person. What can I give back to God? And you find a ministry, a way of serving that blesses you, and you start to serve. And that's what we look for in people. And it's okay to go up to somebody, especially if you know they're a Christian and you start a relationship with them. So tell me about how you're serving God. Because that's the value. I'm beginning to call out that ministry. What are you doing? How valuable are you? Instead of saying, hey, I notice your shirt has a spot. Good grief, we're not helping that at all. Absolutely. Okay, outward appearance does matter, no question about it. Outward appearance does matter. I mean, that's what we see. And we do want to look our best. But frankly, if a pimple ruins your week, something's really wrong. if you put on a shirt that has a spot or a stain on it and all of a sudden your entire day is a wreck, something's really wrong. No body is perfect. But you know, your heart can be right with God, whether you've got a stain on your shirt or not. Absolutely. So where do we need to go from here? We need to train ourselves to see ourselves and people the way God sees us. We need to help people see themselves that way. We need to remember that no body is perfect, dressed or undressed. And we need to learn to look at the heart like God does. God bless you. Thanks so much for watching this video. Hope you found it helpful and a blessing. If you would like to contribute to the effort of producing these videos and having them go out all over the world, please consider donating at stfonline.org/donate. And while you're thinking about things, don't forget to push the subscribe button at the bottom of the screen so you get notified of future videos. God bless.